Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Mrs. Nikmatun Inaya as a lecturer in the final project methodology course, and all my friends who I am proud of. First of all, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Laila Nabilla from AK3B class with present number 15. On this occasion, I will present my final project proposal with the title Analysis of Tax Planning and Minimizing the Payment of Corporate Income Tax at PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera. Okay, in general, this presentation structure contains the first, background, second, formulation of the problem, third, research purposes, fourth, research benefit, fifth, literature review, and the last, research method. First, we go into the background. The background in this research is the first, differences in interest in the field of taxation between the government-run companies. Tax is one of the most potential sources of state revenue for the continuation of state development, so that in its implementation, the government tries to get as much tax as possible, and the other hand, corporate taxpayer will try to pay as little tax as possible, because tax is one of the main burdens that will ultimately reduce profit after tax. These differences in taxation generally occurs between companies and the government due to differences in interest, which basically the company wants to pay the smallest possible tax, while the government as much as possible. Then, self-assessment tax collection system. Based on the existing tax regulation in Indonesia, the tax collection system adopted is self-assessment, in which people register themselves as taxpayer and then calculate, deposit, and report the tax out themselves. With the implementation of this self-assessment system, it is expected that taxpayer can fulfill their responsibility in accordance with the applicable tax law and regulation. Muaja 2015. And next, lowering the tax burden through tax planning. One way that can be done to reduce the income tax payable that will be paid by corporate taxpayer to the government is by taking advantage of loopholes in tax regulation so that corporate taxpayer can pay lower income tax. The application of tax planning in a company can be done by looking for tax avoidance opportunities by maximizing income that is not an object of income tax, increasing costs that are deductible expenses, such as providing allowance in the form of money, maximizing fiscal costs such as employee in-kind costs and so on, which ultimately result in a smaller amount of income tax payable. And next, the state of taxation at PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera. PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera is a construction company in the form of a PT engaged in services. This company focuses on providing warehouse and industrial building construction service, other building construction services, building and factory electrical power installation services, and other electrical installation construction services, where the company is expected to be able to carry out effective tax planning from fiscal improvement, especially in the reconciliation of fiscal income statement, so that tax can still be analyzed and made efficient. Saying the importance of company to carry out tax planning, the researchers are interested in studying the implementation of tax planning by PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera. Now, we go to the next part, as the formulation of the problem. Based on the background described above, the formulation of the problem in this research is 1. How tax planning can be done to minimize the payment of corporate income tax at PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera. And number 2, how much is the corporate income tax savings of PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera after carrying out tax planning. Then, the third part is the research purposes. The purposes to be achieved in this research are as follows. 1. Knowing the tax planning that can be done to minimize the payment of corporate income tax at PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera. And 2. Knowing the amount of corporate income tax savings PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera after carrying out tax planning. The fourth part, we go into the research benefit. The benefits obtained by the parties related to this research are as follows. 1. The results of this study are expected to be used by corporate taxpayers in helping to make tax planning, which will be used in accordance with the applicable tax law and regulations. 2. The result of this study can be used as reference reading material to add insight into tax planning. And for Semarang State Politeknik student, the result of this study can be used as much cooperation of research in the same field. And 3. Become a means of self-development to be able to apply the taxation theories that have been obtained into actual practice, especially with regard to income tax planning. Next, in the fifth part is a literature review. The literature review in this case generally examines 6 things, including first, definition of tax. According to Law Number 28 of 2007, Article 1, Number 1, tax is a minority contribution to the state that is owed by an individual or entity that is coercive under the law without receiving direct compensation and is used for the purposes of the state for the greatest prosperity people. And the definition of taxpayer, according to Law Number 28 of 2007, Article 1, Number 2, is an individual or entity, including taxpayer, tax cutter, and tax collector, who have tax right and obligation in accordance with the provision of tax law and regulations. The literature review number 2 is definition of income tax. According to Siti Resmi, income tax is a tax imposed on tax subject on income received or earned in a tax year both from Indonesia and from abroad. Next, literature review number 3 is depreciation and amortization. Depreciation in accordance with Article 11 of the Law of the Republic of Indonesia number 36 of 2008 concerning income tax, which states that depreciation on expenses for the purchase, establishment, addition, repair, or change or tangible asset, except land with the status of property right, building right, cultivation right, and right of use, which is owned and used to obtain, collect, and maintain income which has as useful life or more than 1 year carried out in equal part over the specified useful life for the property. And amortization. In accordance with Article 11A of the Law of the Republic of Indonesia number 36 of 2008 concerning income tax, which states that the amortization of expenditure to acquire intangible asset and other expenses include the cost and extending the right to build, right to use, and goodwill have a useful life of more than 1 year, which is used to obtain, collect, and maintain income which is carried out in equal part or in decreasing portions over the useful life, which is calculated by applying the amortization rate on the expenditure or on the remaining book value, and at the end of the useful life is amortized at once, provided that it is carried out in accordance with the principles. Next, the literature review number 4 is definition of fiscal reconciliation. According to Smartson, fiscal reconciliation is an adjustment of commercial financial statement prepared based on SAK, or Financial Accounting Standard, or IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards, with tax law and regulation in force in Indonesia, which later become fiscal financial statements. The literature review number 5 is definition of tax planning. Tax planning is a structuring action related to the potential tax consequences. The emphasis on controlling every transaction that has tax consequences. The goal is how this control can streamline the amount of tax to be transferred to the government through what is known as tax avoidance and not tax smuggling, which is a fiscal crime that cannot be tolerated. The literature review number 6 is taxable and deductible principles. According to Zine, the principle of taxable and deductible in general change costs that cannot be deducted into costs that can be deducted, or vice versa, change into that is an object of taxation into income that is not a tax object, with the consequence of a change in the tax payable as a result of the change. Taxables are usually intended for the imposition of taxes and income earned by individuals or entities regardless of where the income is obtained, such as income, while deductibles are costs recognized by tax, usually aimed at expenses of costs, which according to the provision are a deduction from gross income as regulated by law. Income Tax Law Article 6. Okay, the last part is the research method. In this research method, there are 4 subtopics that I will explain. First, research data classification. In general, the data can be classified based on the nature and source. The data used in this research are as follows. Type of data by their nature. Type of data by their nature include 1. Qualitative data and 2. Quantitative data. For qualitative data, according to Sugiono, qualitative data can be defined as that and form the words, schemas, and pictures. Qualitative data used in the preparation of this research in the form of company background, company structure, company goals, policy, and company vision and mission, the latest tax regulation, and the result of interview with financial managers. And 2. Quantitative data. Quantitative data used in the preparation of this research are income statement, list of fixed assets along with the years and costs, additional data obtained during the other research at PT.Trikarya, Cipta, Sejahtera relating to tax payment that can be used as a burden and can be used as the detection, gross income such as land as building tax or PBB. And next, B. Type of data by source. Type of data by source include 1. Primary data. The primary data in this research were obtained from the result of interviews, observation, and documentation on the company as the object of research. And 2. Secondary data. The secondary data used in this research is the application tax law and regulation and the company's financial statement. Research method number 2 is data collection technique. Data collection technique are the methods used to collection data as well as examine data from the information that has been collected. Data collection method needed to obtain accurate data, including 1. Documentation. The documentation method used in this study is to collect documents, including data relating to the list of fixed assets, along with the year-end acquisition and cost, the 2021 profit and loss report, company background, company structure, policy and company vision and mission, as well as data additional costs that can be used as expenses and can be used as the deduction from gross income such as land and building tax or PBB. The second is interview. This method is carried out by conducting direct question and answer to the company leadership regarding a brief history and organizational structure, as well as the financial section related to the list of fixed assets, along with the year and acquisition and cost, the 2021 profit and loss report, and additional data that can be used as expenses and can be used as an expense, gross income deduction such as land and building tax or PBB. Research method number 3 is wording method. The wording method used in this research is as follows. A. Method description. This method is used to describe the general description of PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera, which is include history, vision and mission, main task and function, and organizational structure. And B. Explanation method. This method is used to present an analysis of the influence of corporate income tax planning on PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera. First, to describe the profit and loss statement, which contains operating income, operating expense, and profit before tax in 1 year for the period January 1, 2021 to December 31, 2021, which is then explained based on the item in the 2021 income statement. Second, describe the list of fixed assets owned by taxpayer according to the years and costs. Then classify the fixed asset based on the Minister of Finance Regulation number 96 PMK 3 2009 concerning the types of assets that are included in the group of non-building tangible assets for depreciation purposes. Third, describe additional data obtained by the author during research at PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera, which is useful to assess and tax planning. Fourth, performing the calculation of the tax payable based on the Income Tax Law number 36 of 2008. Fifth, evaluate fiscal adjustment using the taxable and deductible principles, where taxable is an income that can be taxed for those who receive it, and the expenditure of such income becomes a cost that can be charged by the party issuing the income or deductible. 6. Perform a series of calculations to determine the use of the fixed asset depreciation method. For A, calculating depreciation of fixed asset based on Article 11 Income Tax Law using the depreciation method, namely the straight line method and the declining balance method. For B, calculating income tax payable with depreciation cost using the straight line method and the declining balance method. For C, calculating the depreciation of fixed assets using the straight line method and the declining balance method using the present value. And for D, choose a depreciation method that results in a lower income tax. 7. Calculate the income tax payable by using additional data obtained by the author while conducting research at PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera. 8. Performing the calculation of the overall tax payable by implementing tax planning, which include fiscal adjustment using taxable and deductible principles, selecting the depreciation method that produces the smallest income tax payable, and adding additional data that has been obtained by the author during his research in PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera. 9. Based on the result of the calculation of income tax payable by applying tax planning and then corporate with the income tax payable which has previously been calculated by the author based on the Income Tax Law number 36 of 2008, then the authors make a calculation. The calculation is made to answer the problem formulation of how tax planning can be carried out by the taxpayer of the PT.Trikarya Cipta Sejahtera agency without violating existing regulation. That's all from me. I would like to thank you for taking time to listen to my presentation. I apologize if there is mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.